Hey guys, welcome back to another video. Today we will be talking about Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and his ballot access in the 2024 election. Now, as I'm sure all of you watching know, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., I think 2 or 3 days ago, suspended his presidential campaign. He was running as an independent, of course, previously ran as a Democrat, but he dropped his independent campaign. He was polling at 25% in, November of 2023. Just when he dropped out, he was standing at 5% in the recent polling. So that just goes to show how far he dropped in the race and how, much less of an impact he would have at 5 than 25. But he dropped out. Not only did he drop out, he endorsed Donald Trump, which was really interesting. It kind of changed the race a little bit. It shook up the race once again. But the big, it's just shocking now because it seems that this suspension of his campaign and endorsement of Trump actually means very, very little because, it was one thing, even after he dropped out and we figured he would drop his name from all the Battleground state ballots, he said that he would pull his name off the ballot in 10 Battleground states, but he said that he would keep them on in red states and blue states and encourage people to still vote for him in red states and blue states. But, so that is what we figured out first, and even then we thought that this whole thing wouldn't have much of an impact. We see this is Nate Silver's forecast over time, and we see Kennedy drops out. He even puts a line. It's literally nothing. I mean, there's no change. We see Trump rises a bit, but Harris does as well. It's extremely marginal, if it even exists, a boost for Trump. So it didn't mean anything when he dropped out. Anyway, but it appears that now it means even less because another state, a fourth battleground state that Kennedy tried to pull his name off of, the state of Wisconsin now, is now saying that Kennedy must remain on the presidential ballot. This was decided by a state court as well as in all the other states, and there are different reasons for this. I think I know in Michigan, he's staying on the ballot because he was nominated by the Natural Law Party rather than himself as an independent. And the Natural Law Party kind of decides, if they can pull someone off the ballot or who goes on the ballot. And the Natural Law Party is actually keeping him on the ballot despite him dropping out and endorsing Trump. So that's just an example. In Michigan, but as I said, Wisconsin is now the fourth state to do this. As I reported in my community tab, another reason you should subscribe to the channel to get news updates about the election, as well as random questions like this, religion. But, as I reported, this is the fourth state. Court rules RFK Jr. must stay on Wisconsin ballot. This means Kennedy will remain on the ballot in battleground states Wisconsin, Nevada, North Carolina, and Michigan. That is 4 critical swing states. How many electoral votes is that? That's 10, 16, 32, 32. I think it's 48 electoral votes combined. Those 41. I don't know. 40, whatever. Whatever I said first minus 1. But whoops, this is the wrong map. Obviously, I have Florida going Republican. Do not look at this. And I have North Carolina going Republican. But this is huge because that is so many electoral votes where now Kennedy has, almost zero impact. Now, I know he still dropped out and he still endorsed Trump, and many of his voters will consider that and, follow what he says. But honestly, I think that in those states where he is still on the ballot, I bet that he wins a majority of his vote still. So now we're thinking about it like this. You've got Kennedy at 5% nationally. Now, in the polls. Now, on election day, I think he's more at around 3% because polls always overestimate third-party candidates. So let's put him at 3%. And then you've got, now with him dropping out, now you've got about 1/3, I would say, of his supporters. This is just guessing, but it doesn't really matter anyway. But about 1/3 of his supporters not turning out to vote because he dropped out. 1/3. So now you're down to 2% nationally, where Kennedy has control over this. Now, of the people, who would actually listen to Kennedy and, actually vote for Trump is what I mean. It's not many, because then you've got RFK Jr. himself on the ballot in virtually every single state. So that's probably another half of the remaining supporters vote actually for Kennedy despite being dropped out. So now you're down to 1% of the vote. Probably. One single percentage point of the vote that is looking at other candidates to vote for. And how many of these voters are going to go to Harris? Probably a good chunk because a lot are young. How many are going to go to Chase Oliver, the libertarian? Kennedy is very libertarian himself. I bet a good chunk of his supporters go to Chase Oliver. Maybe some go to Jill Stein. Maybe some go to Cornel West. I don't know. And you're left with about half of a percentage point, I feel, of Robert F. Kennedy, or I should say half of a percentage point of the electorate that is going over to Donald Trump from the Robert F. Kennedy Jr. camp. It's not many people at all. It's going to be extremely marginal if now Kennedy is remaining on these battleground state ballots. So this is awful news for the Trump campaign, and it really can make the difference. I said, even despite this not having a huge impact when Kennedy did drop out and endorse Trump, and we thought he would be on all the state ballots, I said even then, that would have a big impact in favor of Trump. But now, Wisconsin out of the equation, Michigan out of the equation, Nevada out of the equation, North Carolina out of the equation. You've only got 3 battleground states. You went from 7 to 3 battleground states, Pennsylvania, Georgia, and Arizona, where Kennedy is actually off the ballot. Now, these are still important, but it makes his impact so much less likely, and I think that especially Wisconsin and Michigan are important because I really do think that Kennedy could actually get near 5% of the vote. These would be some of his best states. You've got a lot of anti-establishment, blue-collar workers in these states who might have turned out for Kennedy. And these are 2016 Trump voters as well, since Kennedy is now the anti-establishment candidate, while Trump was in 2016. These are Trump 2016, who knows 2020, Kennedy 2024 voters. So the vast majority of these Kennedy voters in the Rust Belt, these types of voters that were supporting Kennedy in the Rust Belt, the proportion of these supporters actually going to Trump versus that of the entire nation of Kennedy supporters in the entire nation, it would be much higher, in my opinion. I don't know. That's just my estimation, in the Rust Belt. So being off Wisconsin and Michigan, that's huge. All it does is increase Kamala Harris's chances in the state of Wisconsin and Michigan and Nevada and North Carolina. North Carolina is huge, and Kennedy will stay on that ballot. He could pull some rural votes away from Donald Trump. I could very well see that. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. But just a major, major loss. And I mean, from a nonpartisan point of view, it's almost comical that Kennedy went through all of this with dropping out and endorsing Trump, made it very clear that he was supporting Trump. Got all this media attention, right? The media was talking about this for days, literally, and all of that amounts to extremely little. Because now, after all that, he's still staying on 4 of the 7 battleground state ballots. I mean, it's just comical from a nonpartisan point of view. So, interesting. But thank you all for watching this video. If you enjoyed, make sure to subscribe down below. We're trying to get to 10,000 subscribers before Election Day. So if you could help me out with that, that would be great. Again, thank you all for watching, and I will see you all later.